Okay, everybody hear me? Hear me okay? Turn that down, will you please? Hey, good morning. I'm General Bob Neller. On the 24th of September, I had the honor and privilege of becoming, go ahead, come down here. Nobody's gonna sit down. Come on down here. So I don't have to yell. Your guests. Turn your seats, because I'm gonna walk up in here. I'm not using the podium, so turn around so I can see you. So on the 24th of September, on the Marine Barracks Parade Deck, I had the honor and privilege of taking the Marine Battle Color from General Joe Dunford, our 36th Commandant. Kind of a historically unique event in that we had a Commandant, and a year later, he went on to do another assignment. From what I can tell, that's never happened before. So, puts me in an interesting position because not even included had a lot of input into, and we pretty much agreed with it. I mean, we had a plan, and we were tracking. So now he goes off to become the chairman, which is a very, very difficult job. And now I'm in a position, so what am I going to do? Am I going to change the guidance? Am I going to frag the guidance? So that day, I don't know if you've got an email. I sent an email, or tried to send an email out to the force to say, okay, a number of things. To thank the Dunfords, to talk about that I was going to take the next 90 days, which is what I'm doing right here today, to go out and talk to Marines, see what's on their mind, and then publish a frago to that guidance. And there were some other comments about how the world has changed. I talked about some expectations and then what the areas or priorities were. So that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So, you got a watch on there, War Dog?
I do not, sir.
You keep time on your phone. How can you be without a watch? You're killing me. You got the clock.
Sir.
Okay, you tell me when we get to 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Just put your hand up. So I'll talk for a few minutes about what was in that email, and then I'll take your questions, whatever you want to talk about, and then I have a request. I have a personal request for all of you. So just for some context, I first came to this island in 1976. Yeah, no shit. In fact, we just flew over my company office when I was Second Lieutenant Neller. It's the only remaining single flat-top barracks up at Camp Hansen. I'm not quite sure why it's left. But I remember that Marine Corps. That Marine Corps was, I remember Sergeant Joel Hoole was my platoon sergeant. My company commander was a guy named Jimmy Lee Russell. The first three squad leaders I had were Sergeant Bacon, Sergeant Douglas, and Corporal Thomas. That platoon was second platoon. They were probably 50% high school grads. Maybe. Most of them, if they had tried to join the Marine Corps that you're in today, they never would have made it. I like this Marine Corps a lot. This Marine Corps. Not that they were not good Marines. They were. But they couldn't compete with you. Mentally, physically, it'd be maybe a draw. But it was a very different Marine Corps. We were coming out of Vietnam. There was no money. The volunteer force had just started. We were struggling. We had a lot of problems. Fast forward the tape to here today. We have a Marine Corps that's very experienced. It's been in combat for the last 15 years. The quality of the Marine, and even to get in the door, for you to get in the door, is very high. And it needs to stay there. Not that we're perfect, but we've done well when we've deployed. We've been effective. But even though we're still in Iraq and a small number of Marines in Afghanistan, that fight is nowhere near what it was 4 or 5 years ago for those of us that have been around a while. The gear we have is, we've worn it pretty hard particularly aviation. And we're still fielding that beautiful machine there. I think we're at 242 out of 360. Joint Strike Fighters coming, Huey, Cobra, C-130J, and the F-35 is really what we're excited about. But while we were off doing all that stuff, doing it well and trying to make those countries better places, our adversaries, particularly in this part of the world, but pick one, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, they've been out rebuilding their militaries. They've redesigned their military, they've recapitalized their military, they've got brand new gear, they've had a huge amount of money. China and Russia made a whole lot of money on their economies, either from oil or just commerce. And they designed a military that was, in my view, specifically focused on doing what? Fighting us. If the requirement came about. So, in that email I sent to you on the 24th of September, other than thanking the Dunfords for all they've done and for the guidance that they gave us, the Innovate, Adapt, Win, where we recognize, we as Marines, we're a warfighting organization, that every Marine is a rifleman, that every Marine has to be fit, disciplined, that every Marine has to study to get better, that we keep our honor clean, that we are good stewards of the nation's resources. All those basic things, that we're going to work with Special Operations Command, that we're going to leverage the F-35, that we're going to continue to innovate and adapt like Marines have done throughout our history, such as between World War I and II when the amphibious doctrine, and then after the war with helicopters and vertical assault, and then with short takeoff vertical landing jets, and then with close air support and the Marine Air Ground Task Force. I mean, if you look at the military design and organizational design of almost all the militaries in the world today, they're all trying to do what we do, which is form a Marine Air Ground Task Force team. But at the same time, while we were off, our potential adversaries have developed a significant capability. And so now we're in a position where we have to do something to maintain our edge, our advantage. Because we don't want, if we have to go fight, and that's why you're here, don't make no mistake about it. You know, many people here have deployed in Nepal, we've gone to the Philippines, we've done all sorts of HADR things, which is all great and well, but that's not why you're here. You're here to fight. We need to remind ourselves of that. And so what I asked in that email is I said, okay, let's think about this. Let's think about the capability we have, how we can make our capability better. Let's think about our adversaries. If you're gonna fight with somebody, if you're gonna have combat with somebody, whether it's martial arts or whatever, you study them, you look at them, you analyze them just like they analyze you. And we look at what they've done, and we look at our capabilities, and we figure out how to gain an operational advantage. That's what we want to do. So if you were going to fight the United States today, or take the United States on in some area, what would be the first thing you would do? Anybody? If you were going to operate against the United States, what's the first thing you would do? Say again?
Take out all air assets.
Well, so how would you do that? I'm thinking something a little more fundamental. What's the one thing we're totally reliant on?
Kill the communications, sir.
Our comm or the internet, right?
Yes, sir.
What do we operate that isn't reliant on the internet? GPS, SATCOM, space. We've developed this very capable operational system that is based on the net. Is the network going to be there? Can we protect the network? We've become reliant on the network. Today, with your phone, your hand, your smartphone, and access to more data and even maybe better communications than the President of the United States did 15 years ago. You can pick up that phone because you have access to the network. You can video teleconference with anybody in the world. I mean, you just take that for granted. 15 years ago, people were still arguing about could they do wireless communication? Could they pass data over wireless? Technology has changed, and it's moving faster and faster and faster. And that's part of the innovate, adapt, win. We have got to be part of that process. We've got to figure out how to do that. So we still have to be basic Marines, because even though the character of war is a competition, it is the effort of one person or one organization to impose their will on top of somebody else, to have their way. And we want to, if we have to fight, we want to win. We have to win. America expects the Marines to be ready when the nation is least ready. So we have to be able to do that. So I'd ask you to think about that. Read, study, have the conversation. I mean, that machine right there is a machine. It comes alive and does what it does because a human being operates it, and a human being maintains it, and a human being makes sure that it's fueled and armed, and the radios work, and the comm works. Other than if there were no human being, that's just a piece of metal and composite. So how do we keep that edge? The second thing in that email I want to talk to you about was expectations. And this, I think, is important because it goes back to the fact that this is about people. I mean, the machines are cool and they're neat, but it's really a smartphone without somebody to manipulate it, unless you have an avatar that can operate your phone or something for you. It's probably coming in the next 10 years. We need a human being. So I listed, there were 2 columns of attributes, kind of like leadership traits and principles, and I talked in the email about, and I just want to talk to you about the responsibilities of leaders, or the expectations that we should have of our leaders, that you should have of me or any of your officers or staff NCOs. And on the other side is what we should have of Marines. And it's nothing you haven't heard before, but I think it's important that we have this conversation, because the whole discussion is really one about success. How do we succeed? How do you as an individual succeed? How do we succeed as a 1st Marine Air Wing, as the Marine Air Group, as your squadron, or as a Marine Corps, as a country? How do we succeed? What can we do to make ourselves, give ourselves the highest probability of success? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is about being successful. I'm going to walk past her and really mess up her stuff here. So, because I want to look at, so I'm going to go down these very quickly, and then we can talk about it later. But so if you're a leader, and I'm talking to staff NCOs, I'm talking to NCOs, staff NCOs, and officers in here primarily, what should our Marines expect from us? Because I think they should expect something from us. I think they should expect that we're going to treat them firmly and fairly and with dignity and respect, that we're going to hold ourselves accountable, that we're going to show up every day. We're going to be in the front. We may not be the fastest runner or the strongest person anymore or the smartest, but we're going to be out front. And we're going to be people of character and substance, and we're going to be a good example. I was at Quantico the week after the 24th, and I was down there and I met a couple Marines at the Chow Hall, 2 PFCs. And they wanted to get a picture, and they came up, and I said, "How long have you been here?" And he goes, 4 months. And the other Marine said, like 3 weeks. And I'm saying, man, 2 PFCs at Quantico. I mean, I kind of felt bad for him, but because this, I mean, not that they were administrators or dispersers, I can't remember. Everybody's got to serve where they get assigned. I said, so what do you think? How's it going? What do you think? What do you think about being here? And they go, kind of dropped their heads, and they went, well, it's not what we expected. Like, well, what'd you expect? Not this. And I think that's an honest answer. I think most of us, because we go to recruit training, or we go to OCS, and we go to our school, and we get exposed to fairly organized, good leadership, and then sometimes You can come out to the operating forces that there's not going to be somebody there day after day, every hour telling you what to do. You have to become responsible. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, give me an example. Give me an example of what's happened that you didn't expect or disappointed you. And the Marine leaned over to me and he goes, my staff sergeant, he's late to work every day. Really? And I leaned over to him and I said, when you're a staff sergeant, don't do that. Now think about that. Here's a PFC. He's just right out of his MOS school. He shows up. He wants to be inspired, motivated. He wants to do a good job. And his staff NCO comes to work late. Simple thing, small thing, but what I'm saying though, leaders, is you got to show up on time, preferably. I think our Marines should expect that we're going to train them well, that we're going to give them good, meaningful training that's challenging to them. It's going to make them better. We're going to give them opportunities to advance. We're going to recognize their performance, good or otherwise. That we're going to give them decent equipment to operate and maintain. Because when we go to do what we do, that equipment's there for us and we can be successful on the battlefield. They should expect that we're going to take care of their families, and if a Marine is wounded or hurt, we're going to continue to stay with that Marine and continue to help them until that Marine can handle things for themselves. I mean, like it or not, and I think most of us like it, I mean, we're Marines for life. You may not realize that, particularly the more, and I'm clearly the oldest person in this room, far and away. Everybody here, whether you like it or not or realize it, you're a Marine for life. Everything that's ever going to be said about you till the day we put you under the earth or do whatever we're going to do with you, the first word that's written or said about you is going to say, Marine. Mr. Palacio was a Marine. Palacio, former Marine, elected to state legislature. Palacio, former Marine, earns PhD. Palacio, former Marine, robbed the first federal bank today. We don't want that one. We want the other two. We're Marines for life. Because we want to succeed. This is all about success for you, for the unit, for the institution. And leaders, it is our responsibility to ensure or facilitate the success of these Marines, whatever it is. Whether it's to do their 4 years and get out and go to college, go back and run the family business, to go to whatever they want to do. Nobody joined this organization to fail. Anybody? You ever meet anybody? Why'd you join the Marine Corps, Palacio? I joined the Marine Corps to fail. I'm really picking on you. I'll leave you alone. Nobody joined this organization to fail because you wouldn't be here. This is a group of winners. And the last thing leaders that should convey to those that they lead is compassion. Why would I say that? Compassion. What do you want me to do, General? Go hug them? No, not necessarily. If you watch the video that was done for the birthday ball, the battle that was focused on was Iwo Jima, and you see Lieutenant General Snowden, retired. He's 95, 96 years old, and he's talking about the Marines that were in that company that he commanded on Iwo Jima. And he said, we loved each other. Why would he say that? Why would I ask leaders to show compassion to their Marines? Anybody? Anybody help me out? No? Go ahead.
We're family, sir.
Okay, we're family, and because we're family, what?
That we take care of each other.
And we care about each other. We do. And leaders have to show that. So here we are coming up on the Thanksgiving weekend. What time do you get off? You get up early Liberty call on Wednesday?
No, sir.
No? The wing's going to stay here and grind it out, huh? Okay, so let's say for the sake of discussion, who is this?
Sergeant Major Horn, sir.
Sergeant Major Horn. So whatever time Wednesday you get out of here, even though it's a short week, okay, you got stuff on your mind, you want to get home, you're supposed to go somewhere, you're supposed to meet somebody, Thanksgiving dinner, whatever you're going to do, and you're out there. I mean, think about it. It's a Friday. You know, you're just like, I had enough. I'm done. I just want to get away from this green machine like now. And so you're out to your car, and you're like, okay, you open the door, and you look around, and you feel this presence behind you. You turn around, and there's PFC Neller. And you're like, what? What? Sergeant Major, can I talk to you? Oh, God. Devil dogs, Friday afternoon. But you're not going to do that, are you?
No, sir.
You know, you're going to take your phone, you're going to throw it in the car. Say, what do you got, Marine? Because that Marine has probably been waiting for some period of time to talk to you. And it's important to them. It may be something very small. But if you walk away, I will tell you, leaders, if you walk away from that Marine, you'll never have that Marine again. Ever. And we owe that to these Marines. Just a certain amount of compassion. Everybody has a hard time. There's nobody in this room who hadn't struggled at one time or another, myself included. And you needed somebody to be there for you, maybe just to listen or to give you some either understanding, some advice, or maybe some tough love. And that's compassion to me. Now, on the other side, what should leaders expect from those that we lead? Expect you're going to give 100% every day, that you're going to be technically and tactically proficient, that you're going to be physically, morally, and mentally fit, that you're going to take care of the gear that we give you to operate, that you're going to look out for each other, that you're going to earn trust in everything that you do, that you're going to strive to make yourself better. It's a contract. I mean, it's kind of a system of, to me, it's about success. Every leader has a vested interest in you being successful, and each of you should have a vested interest in not just yourself being successful, because it really isn't about us. But it is in some cases. But the institution. And if everybody buys that, if everybody buys into that, it'd be a pretty nice place to be. Now, what gets in the way of that? People that might be selfish, people that lose their motivation, people that get discouraged, people that get despondent. That happens, and that's when leaders have to step in. Say, what's going on? Or you have to step in with your friends. Hey, what's going on? You seem down today. I mean, it's not rocket science. Think about the best leaders you ever met, or the people that you today admire that you think are the best leaders in your organization. Think about the qualities that they exhibit. They're positive, they're motivated, they're competent, they treat people with respect, they listen, they acknowledge that they're not perfect, and we're not perfect. They want to get better, but they're always striving to succeed. So that's kind of where I am, and that's the kind of the ideas I want to convey. It's a partnership. And I've seen it where the leaders weren't good, and the Marines are going to follow what the leaders follow, what the Marines lay out there for them. So that's what I meant by the expectations. The last part, before I get into questions, was there were 5 areas that I want to focus on in this frag order that I'm going to write to General Dunford's guidance. Talking about people, readiness, training, naval integration, and modernization and technology. We've talked a lot about people. People are the basis of this. It's not the machine that matters, it's the Marine that matters. We equip the Marine, not the machine. We've got to continue to recruit the best people, retain, re-enlist the best people, and we're going to do everything that we can to make that happen. We're going to try to do a better job of taking care of Marines when they transition out. I had a Marine at Camp Pendleton stand up and ask, he goes, General, I got friends of mine that got out. He was in an infantry battalion, he was a sergeant. He goes, I got friends of mine that have gotten out and they're really struggling, and some of them have even taken their own life. What are you doing about that? What are you doing about that? I didn't have a very good answer for that Marine. Because I didn't know at that time, what are we doing about that? But I think it goes back to this idea of Marine for life. We all owe an obligation to everybody here for everybody's individual and organizational success, and we owe an obligation to all those Marines that have left. I can tell you there's thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not million Marines out there that want to help you if and when that day comes that you're no longer wearing the uniform full time. We just have to figure out how to connect those people that are struggling a little bit.
Morning, sir.
Yeah.
It is 1000.
Okay. Readiness, we talked about readiness. Aviation readiness is a point of emphasis right now because we got to field the new airplanes. The ground readiness is not in a bad place, but readiness is, it's quantified. I mean, okay, do we have enough people? Are they trained? Do we have the gear? The real readiness I'm concerned with is the spirit, our spiritual readiness. Remember at the birthday ball, they read General Lejeune's message, it is the eternal spirit that have animated Marines throughout the century, that have made them worthy successors of those that have gone before. How do you train your spirit? How do I get everybody, and it's hard, every day to bring their A game and be fired up about being a Marine? Training is part of it. You got to have confidence to train. This is a very busy place. I don't know, a lot of people, I've been here, I've been to Okinawa a bunch of times, been stationed here. I don't think those that haven't been here don't realize how busy this place is. They just don't understand. It's going to change because for the last 10 or 15 years that we've been at war, there weren't a whole lot of people here. They were all deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, some of them from here. But we have to continue to train and be ready for whatever comes in the region. Naval integration. We're going to continue to work with our naval partners as part of the naval campaign and our other joint partners, the Army, the Air Force, and Special Ops. Because we're part of the joint force and there's nothing that we can do really completely by ourselves. We need the joint force. And the last part is modernization and technology. I talked about modernization, which is mostly buying new stuff. But there's all sorts of technology out there that I think it's very difficult for the government to stay ahead of. I mean, there's a new smartphone comes out. I hate going back to that example, but every 6 months there's a new phone. And you all go out and buy it because it's bigger, it's better, faster, smarter, whatever. The government has a hard time turning that fast, but we have to figure out how to change the way we do things so that we can be better, faster, and leverage this technology. So those are the areas I'm going to talk about in the Frago. I'll send it out after the first of the year. In the meantime, you're here forward deployed. You're here ready to fight tonight. It's part of that readiness I talked about. I mean, I would ask you, if you got the call tonight, if somebody called you at 1800, no matter where you were, and said, hey, remember the Commandant talked about being ready to go, pick a place. Doesn't matter. I need you down here with all your stuff packed, ready to go. It's 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Would you be ready? Would you be ready? I mean, other than just here's the gear, let's pack your stuff. Would you be mentally ready? Would you be physically ready? Would your training be ready? I mean, you would probably never, ever completely ready. But are you mentally ready for that call? Because that's what we do. We're the nation's force in readiness. We're ready when the nation is least ready. And the first call if something bad happens is going to be to Marines. And they're going to call us because every time they have called us, we got it done. We got it done. And it's got to stay that way. Okay, my request I'll save for last, but right now I'll take anybody's questions. Sir. All right, here, you go first. Are there not any other mics? If you have a question, come on down here and, so you can get on the microphone and everybody can hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning. I have a question. So, you talked a lot about radios today, sir. Sorry. Well, you talked a lot about radios today. My question is, Marines are ready. I see Marines run first class PFC, first class CFC, but they're struggling with the high weight standards. What are you going to fix that, sir?
Okay, so if you follow what's going on, there was just a message published by TCOM, because I've gotten a lot of questions about that, particularly from female Marines who are working on their pull-ups and are saying, hey, come on, you're telling me to do pull-ups, I'm gaining weight, now I'm outside standards, what's the deal? This is, you want me to do pull-ups or not? And it's always been an issue of people that are fit, they get bigger and they get stronger. So I've asked, we're going to do a whole review, and by the 1st of July, we'll come out with whatever changes. It's interesting, I asked what do the other services do? And nobody's the same. Nobody's the same. So what I want to try to do is we're going to look at the fitness tests for men and women. We're going to look at the CFT. We're going to look at the scoring. We're going to look at height and weight. And I mean, we're all professional in some way. I view us as professional athletes. We aren't, we're not average. So I don't know what the right height and weight standard is for somebody who is very physically fit, very strong, and still looks good in their uniform. But that's kind of the spot I'm trying to find. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, to answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Back here, go ahead.
I have a question, sir. It's regarding tuition assistance. In the past, tuition assistance has been revoked due to sequestration. I was wondering if there's any fear that in the future.
No, as far as I understand, if the president signs this new budget deal, that there'll be tuition assistance, but it won't be available until after you've got 2 years active duty time. Is that correct, Sergeant Major? So there'll be tuition assistance.
Morning, sir. I was wondering how you feel about the threat that ISIS poses to us, and how you feel the Marine Corps will play a larger role in the future.
Well, I mean, ISIS it's a very complicated situation. I mean, they're terrorists. They've hijacked a religion, and they've got terrain, and now they have, they've got this idea that they're going to reestablish this thing called a caliphate. And the president has been pretty clear that we're going to defeat and destroy these guys, and we're just going to wait and see what the next step is to do this. There's over 750 Marines in Iraq right now that are involved with fighting ISIS with the Iraqis. Will this expand into Syria? I don't know. There's Marine Harriers. Before that, there were Hornets. There's Marine Harriers out of Special Purpose MAGTF flying and dropping bombs probably right now as we speak. Is that going to be enough to defeat these guys? Are the Iraqis going to be able to provide a viable ground force that's equivalent to put enough pressure on them? That remains to be seen. I communicate with folks that are over there. It would, you read in the paper, some people call for, we need a U.S. ground forces. I mean, I already saw this movie once. In fact, I was in this movie once. And could we go in there with a Marine force and go to Raqqa and pound these guys into the ground like a tent peg? Could we? Absolutely. And it would be, some Marines would get hurt, but we go, kick them in the butt. No problem. But then my question is, okay, so we're standing there, what are we going to do? What's next? Who do we give it to? I don't want to stay in Raqqa. I mean, there's nothing there that I want. But they are a threat to the homeland, and it's something that we should be concerned about. So my sense is over the next few weeks, you're going to see this kind of evolve as this discussion takes place as to trying to get others involved so that we can support them. In the meantime, I think, there's a high probability that as we ramp up airstrikes and some of the other things we're doing on ISIS, that they're going to start to crack. My sense is they did these things in Europe to try to distract attention from what's happened to them in Syria, because they're getting pounded into the ground by airstrikes. So they had to take the pressure off. But we'll see. But at the end of the day, if we get called to go, we'll go. That's part of being ready. Next. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Good morning, sir. Sergeant Escobedo, Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 36. My question to you, sir, is would you mind shedding more light on the timeline for them moving MCAS Fatima up to Camp Schwab? Because one of the things that I've noticed in speaking with my junior Marines that live here is that they are not putting any more money into renovating these barracks. And with every typhoon that we get, the power goes out, the AC goes out. You've been stationed here, sir, so you know how hot and difficult it can be during the summer times when they do not have power in these barracks.
That's a really good question. You know, we've been wrestling with this Fatima replacement thing for a number of years. I was up at Schwab yesterday and saw the demonstrators, most of whom probably don't live on Okinawa. There's 2 barracks that they're trying to build because they need to finish those to move people out of other barracks, but the demonstrators right now apparently are blocking cement trucks from getting into Schwab to finish the construction. So how much longer is this going to go on? I don't know. All I can tell you is I will go back and look at the amount of money that we're putting in here, because even though I've lived here with no air conditioning, I would not recommend it to anybody. And so if there's problems with the barracks, we ask a lot of you, and you usually do it without question. But I'll get with my guys to find out how much money there is, at least for the HVAC, to make this stuff work. The only thing I'd ask of you, though, so that's on me. I'm accountable for you, to you for that. But what you're accountable for me is that, there's this pressure on the money. We're leaving, don't put any money into it because we're going to go here, but yet we never leave. So all I ask you, like with anything else, that you do everything you can to take the best care you can of these facilities. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and tell you these are old buildings. But I'll get back to you on that, because I don't know the answer to that, but you should have an expectation that the air conditioner and the power and the hot water is going to be there, at least with some level. If there's a storm, okay, you understand it goes out, but it should come back on in short order. Fair enough? Okay, thanks. Thanks for looking out for your Marines.
Good morning, sir. My name is Corporal Hester, Public Affairs. We have a question from Facebook. The question reads, as a retired Marine, I'm concerned about the Marine Corps' ability to meet future conflicts with rogue terrorist states if called upon. Are we ready, and what are we doing to prepare?
A simple question, or a simple answer to the first one, are we ready? I think we're ready. Are we as ready as we would like to be? No. And what are we doing to prepare? Well, part of what we're doing to prepare, I talked about, we're trying to modernize the force, and it's not going to happen overnight. And we're trying to make sure that the most modern thing and the most capable thing are the Marines that we have, and I feel that's the best. I feel best about that. So we're going to try to get better every day. We're going to try to get every model type series fielded. We're going to try to continue to train. For 15 years we were doing a counterinsurgency stability ops, and for the ground units, even to some extent for the aviation and logistics units, it involved operating out of forward operating base, conducting stability ops in a village or a town or in a local area, and then going back to the FOB. We've got to get back to where we deploy, where we maneuver, where we're doing assault support, where we're living, the ground forces are living off their backs, out of their packs, that the field craft that they have. One of the real advantages of coming to Okinawa is you get to go out and operate on this ground. This is very difficult ground. If you've been up to Jungle Warfare Training Center, anybody here been to JWTC? All right, Sergeant Major, you got to get some of these Marines. Sergeant Major Marquez, my old running mate from Bahrain, you need to get these devil dogs up to JWTC to be miserable. And then maybe the barracks will seem a little bit better. Because I guarantee you there's no air conditioning up there. Just a lot of mud and rain and heat. But it's a good experience because it gives you confidence that you can handle it. So back to the question, that's what we're doing. We're going back to train the basic mission essential tasks of attack, defend, reinforce, get on ship, conduct amphibious ops, continue to train here and get all the TNR manual checks done. It's harder over here though because you're just further away. You're halfway around the world. So, you know, we make our own luck. We can't make silly mistakes, but we have to press the system to make it get better. But I think our readiness is good, but it's not as good as it needs to be. Anybody else?
Good morning, sir. Chief Officer Cruz with HMLA 167. My question is, with the recent tensions in the China Sea, if a conflict were to become reality, what would the role of the HMLA look like?
Well, the history of this region, if you go back to World War II when we fought our now ally, Japan, what was the role of the Marine Corps? What did we do? Seize and secure advanced naval bases, right? So if somebody were out there to start putting their forces on little islands out in the middle of the water, how would you go about conducting operations against them? You come from the sea. Who comes from the sea? Who? We do. That's what we do. So I think the HMLA, it's not the HMLA, it's the whole MAGTAV. You know, if something happens down there, you know, we could go down and reinforce, we could go down there and reinsure our allies, we could go down there to train. You know, nobody wants a fight in the South China Sea or anywhere. But there's going to be tension. This is a very important part of the world. You know, you've got 40% of the people and the biggest economies. So having actually a confrontation that involved a combat probably isn't in anybody's interest. And I think we're going to first and foremost work to deter. So the more ready we are, the more we show ourselves, the more we travel around. When you go to foreign countries and train, you're ambassadors of the United States of America. Not just in what you do operationally, but what you do out in town. People are going to look at you. So they've heard about the Marines. You know, we have a brand. We have a brand. We're like Apple or Microsoft, Marine. And when people hear that, they have a certain expectation. It's very important that we meet that expectation. Not just professionally, operationally, but how we conduct ourselves when we're on liberty. I mean, it's tough living over here. I was over here in 2007, 2009. We had a Marine violate a law, cause a lot of problems. You might think, hey, I'm living over here in a very microscopic fishbowl type of place. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And we're asking a lot of you to be what you are every day, which is very disciplined, very composed, very mature. And I need you to keep doing that. But it's really not about the HMLA, it's about the MAGTAV. So we'll do whatever the National Command Authority tells us to do, whether it's something in Korea, if they start to get, if Kim Jong-un starts to get silly as he tends to do from time to time, or anybody else, we'll go there and reassure our allies and make sure we can deter anybody from violating international law. Anybody else?
Good morning, my name is Sergeant Franklin, VMM 265. The question I have, sir, is will it ever be possible for the Marine Corps to be like other branches and allow NCOs to get off-base housing?
You mean single Marines?
Yes, sir.
Well, I know in some places, depending upon what's going on with the housing situation, that some Marines rate BAQ own right and if there's not a sufficient room in the barracks that they are allowed to do that. I don't believe this is one of those places. But what you're basically asking the Marine Corps to do is if I can meet the square footage requirement for an NCO to live in the barracks, that even if I have vacancy at the barracks, I should give them extra money to let them go live in town. I mean, just like, and I'll tell you, that's probably not going to happen. I wish I had the extra money, but there's a lot of stuff that we have to pay for that we don't have enough money for now. And if I rack and stack all those things, as much as I might want you to have that opportunity, I don't see that happening unless the barracks were full and I had no other place to properly house you. I need you in the barracks. I need your leadership in the barracks. The Marines that live in the barracks need to see their NCOs, and you need to set the example in the barracks. So I know that is asking a lot, but I need you in the barracks, and I need you to make sure that they get coached, taught, and mentored by you every day.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? Okay. Here's my request. And that's exactly what this is, a request. Every day, probably the first email I get is called Significant Events, and it's all the things that happen to Marines that sadly are not good. And we talked a lot about success. And so I get an email that lists how many allegations of sexual assault, how many Marines had a suicidal ideation, how many Marines maybe had a suicide attempt, how many domestic abuse issues there were, how many Marines had DUIs, got in traffic accidents, were hurt, injured, even killed. So it's really not a really good way to start the day. But I've been watching this, for years now. And it's the point where it's like, these Marines are not being successful. They're not achieving the success that I want for you as your commandant, and I don't think that they want for themselves. But if you look, so it's real easy to go, yeah, okay, fine, hit delete, done, another day, forget about it. It's never going to change. It's never going to change. So if I look at those things, though, individually, and I peel back and do the forensics, there's a lot of reasons these things happen. Some of them are accidents, some of them are what they are, but there's the one most common denominator in all these things is what? Alcohol. Thank you very much. It's alcohol. And we all know that. It's like our little family secret. We all have family secrets, right? Everybody's got a secret in their family. The crazy uncle but it's our family secret. Marines drink. You're like, come on, General. Marine Corps was founded in a bar. What do you expect? Roger that. I just don't want you to die in a bar. And so and we all know that. And this is kind of the story that pushed me over the edge where I'm not willing to not talk about this anymore. So I got an email that and it was an individual event, and it was about the death of a Marine. And the story went like this. A Marine, a Lance Corporal, underage, was drinking at the barracks. For whatever reason, friends of his were having a party in the housing area. He got in his truck, he drove up to the housing area, and he showed up, and they immediately saw that he had had too much to drink. So they did what you would expect them to do. They tried to get the keys away from him. In fact, they got in a fight. They got a physical altercation, and he escaped. And he got in his truck, and he drove away at a high rate of speed, and then the MPs saw him, and they gave chase. So now he's trying to evade the MPs. And he tried to go off the base, but it was a weekend, so the one gate he went to was locked. So he turned around. So in the meantime, First Lieutenant Davis is the regimental officer of the day, and he's walking out of the regimental headquarters, getting ready to get in the regimental vehicle to drive around and make his rounds. Lieutenant Davis was a prior enlisted Marine, 2 tours in Afghanistan, married with 2 kids. So as he gets in the van, he starts to drive away. Our Marine, now going about 80 miles an hour, comes down in front of the regimental CP, hits the van that Lieutenant Davis is driving, and kills him. And I read this and I'm like, so you could go, oh, that is so sad. That's just so sad. Well, it's just another. But Marines, and this is before, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch it anymore. I've watched it for 40 years. I care too much about you, your success, your family, the people that care about you, your leaders that care about you. And I don't know who I felt worse for, Davis's family or that Marine. Actually, I talked to Marine Corps Times about this because I said, we got to do something. Kind of goes back to the Marine answer. We got to do something about this. We're too good. We're better than this. We're killing each other. And it's alcohol. So his parents actually emailed me. They emailed me a picture of his son at his gravesite on Memorial Day and said, please make my son's death count for something. And then the other night I was at a birthday ball and I was standing there talking to some Marines, and this young woman came up and I said, hey, can I help you? She goes, I'm Lieutenant Davis's wife. So we had a talk. I said, she goes, I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Nobody else should have to go through what I'm going through. I said, okay, we're going to try to do better. And so what we kind of came up with was this idea. We actually stole it from the Navy. It's called Protect What You've Earned. And so here's my request. It's actually a question. Put your hand up and touch your collar. Touch your rank insignia. Touch that EGA on your chest. And think about that whole journey you've been on to be able to wear this uniform and to be who you are and what you are. Think about all the work you did. Think about the sweat and the effort and the exertion and everything you did. And think about your families and how proud they are of you. And you go home and your mom goes, this is my son or my daughter. They are a U.S. Marine. And think about how that makes you feel. It feels good. You're proud. You should be proud. Nobody gave you a thing. You earned everything you got. The Marine Corps doesn't give anybody anything. We recognize you. So my question is, think about where you've been, all you've done, the work you've put in. Why would you put that all at risk for a drink? Is that logical? Does that make any sense? It doesn't to me. Doesn't mean I'm not telling you not to drink. You're grown men and women, and I trust you implicitly. I do, because of who you are and what you've done. I trust you. But as your commandant and as a leader, I can't, and this doesn't matter if you're a colonel, a general, a sergeant major, or a private. Alcohol doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care. And you know right now, if I got you one-on-one, I say, is there anybody in your unit who's got a problem with alcohol? You go, oh yeah. I know somebody. Okay, so what are you doing about it? Or maybe it's you, and you don't know what to do. Or you don't think you have a problem. I had an email, I had the same talk in Hawaii, and I had a master gunnery sergeant from a wing unit say, General, thank you for talking about this. I drove drunk twice, and it scared the hell out of me. I don't know why I didn't get stopped, but because I didn't respect the drug. So we're here as a group of people who have been incredibly successful in our own way, and we want each other to be even more successful in the future. It is in our interest to do everything we can to continue to put ourselves on that road to success. All I'm asking you, Marines, ladies and gentlemen, is to think about how alcohol is going to help you get where you want to go. And you're going to see these signs, PYWE, protect what you've earned. That's the class. There's no computer program. There's no class roster you got to sign. That's it. I just gave you the whole thing. It's a conversation that we have to have with ourselves. Because I can't afford to not have every one of you available every day, full up around. We can't afford not to everybody show up every day, ready to give it 100%. Whether you're a leader or the led, it doesn't matter. So my request is just think about what I said. Okay, look, we have an incredibly capable Marine Corps. Can we get better? Yes. Must we get better? Yes. Will we get better? Yes. But we are only going to get better if everybody here buys into improving our organizational and your individual success. I want every one of you to be as successful in your lives wherever it takes you. That's my goal for you. I don't know what your goal is for yourself. If you can't answer that question, then that's a whole nother conversation. But you're part of something that's bigger than anything you probably ever could imagine. You know, what we do is not a job. You go to the airport and people see you and they go, "What do you do?" "I'm a Marine." "Well, what do you do?" "I'm a Marine." "Well, what do you do?" "Look, lady, I'm a Marine. I locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by means of fire and maneuver in close combat." "Oh, that's okay. That's why you pay me." You know, this is a profession, and we're different. I like that we're different. I like being part of something that's different, and I think that's probably why you're here, because you want to be different. Not everybody can do this. So let's just, everybody put your shoulder to the wheel and just keep driving like you've been doing, and we'll continue to get better. And if we get called to go somewhere and do what we have to do, we have to win. We have to win. No, there is no second place in our business. We have to win. And I know that we will with you. So I appreciate your time. It's a great honor and privilege to serve with you as your Commandant. I know that you'll hold me accountable, and I expect that. And I will do everything that I can in my power to earn your trust and confidence. You guys have a great day. Please be safe. Thank you. Carry on. Carry on.